Hello, everyone, and welcome to our March community YouTube stream. My name is April Schuppel, Senior Developer Advocate here at Appian, and I'm really excited to be taking you through this stream talking about how all the great new features in 23.1 make it easier and faster to build a portal. Now, I won't be alone today. I'm joined with two great experts. So we have technical instructor Matt Cosenza, who is going to be hands-on keyboard building throughout the stream. And we also have senior product manager Kevin Froimson to give us all the juicy details about how these features have come to be. So welcome, guys. And let's do some quick intros. Matt, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Matt Cosenza. I've been with Appian for just a little over a year, calling outside of the Chicago area, little tiny town called Morris. But really excited to show you guys what we have to offer with this new release.
Awesome. And hi, everyone. I'm Kevin, and I'm a product manager over in our engineering team. I've been with Appian for, almost 7 years now, which is kind of hard to believe. And I was previously in our customer success department where I was building applications for our customers, primarily in the public sector. So if any of my old customers are on the webinar listening in right now, I want to give you a shout out. Thanks for tuning in. And now I'm a product manager focused on the portals and sites user experiences and really focused on making it easier and more powerful to build a total experience in Appian.
Amazing. Thank you both so much for being here. So, yeah, if anyone in the chat wants to say hello, where they're tuning in from, feel free to drop that in. I will be monitoring the chat throughout and asking any questions that go in there. So, we've mentioned Portal. I don't know if anyone has already had the chance to use a portal, but Kevin, for those who may not have experienced it yet, why don't you give us a brief intro to what is a portal and what are some common use cases that people may be using?
Sure. So I want to start out by saying for anyone who hasn't had the chance to use portals, I would highly recommend using them. They're really exciting and a really cool new capability that we have. So Appian has long had the ability to create a user experience. We can create great user experiences through sites, but those experiences were previously limited to users with an account. So Appian Portals now helps you extend this reach of our low-code platform to external audiences. Now anyone can interact with your systems without a user account or a login. So essentially, this allows organizations to connect to their employees, to their customers, or to anyone who they do business with. And it really allows different organizations to create this great total experience that can be built quickly with Appian's low code. And you also asked for some use cases. We've seen a lot of common use cases really popping up that our customers have started to build out. Some common ones are really starting or kicking off a process. Again, that really connects a workflow back into the platform. This includes things like self-registration. So an external user kind of coming in and creating a user account. But also a lot of just viewing information that comes from data within the platform.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. And we'll be talking about if you have used a portal before, it is even easier now to access that data. And we'll be getting into all those details here today. So, what are we building today? Well, we are going to build a sort of registration portal. So, we have the city of Mattropolis, and Mattropolis really loves to put on great events for their citizens. Now, the city has been using Appian for years internally to help them organize themselves and plan these events, but they've been taking registrations through email. Now that we have portals, they can make a great site where people can go see what events are coming up and register to attend. So that is what we are going to be building today. So Matt, why don't you start us off by just letting us know what objects you're starting with here?
Certainly. So as you can see on my screen here, we have a few objects already built out for us. Just to save time on the live stream, there's tons of UX and tweaks that you guys can go through over and over. We wanted to simplify it and focus mostly on the portal section and bring in what Kevin mentioned earlier about that starting a process from that portal. So we're going to focus on those. So to support that, we have some objects that we've added. Many interfaces here. The primary ones are going to be our event billboard card layout and the page header. We'll get through a couple other ones as well. And then we have a lot of record types that we will be leveraging. The events themselves. We have to have something that will capture all of the registrant data and the venues that they will be in. And finally, our process model that will be kicked off from our portal.
Great.
I think
Thanks.
what's really interesting to point out here too, April, is that just how few objects it really takes to create your portal. You can see here, Matt's showing currently 11, and we'll make the portal as well. But you can really get a portal kind of up and running really quickly with just a few objects.
Yeah, and even here, we'll see later with one of the new features, Design Library, how you actually don't even really need all these objects. You could really do one interface, but we're going to show off how a design library makes it even easier to have great uniform user experiences across your different applications. All right, so Matt, why don't you get us started? Where are we going to begin?
Sure. Well, we are going to start by creating a new portal object. So I'll go up to New here, and we'll scroll down in this kind of lighter purplish blue color. We're going to select New Portal.
Yeah, and this really shows being kind of set in line with that site object. They're kind of sister objects, you could think of them as, where the site lets you really connect to internal users or users with a user account, and Portals allows you to connect to those external users, but both allow you to really create that user experience.
Yeah, I'm wondering if anyone in the chat let us know if you were around when sites first were released, because that was definitely a big thing for improving our total experience. And now Portals is really the next step in broadening all of our capabilities.
Yeah. I remember sites came out right before I joined, if that dates me a little bit.
How many releases have you been through, Kevin? Like, I guess almost 30?
I couldn't even count. I guess there's some math to do, but I'd need a pen and paper.
Oh.
Awesome. So it looks like, Matt, you've gone ahead and created the portal. And the first thing that I think I can see is that some of those properties have already been populated. And the one that I'm really seeing is that it's starting out in that unpublished state. So what that really means for all of those out there watching is that this portal is not yet published, which means that it's not accessible through an endpoint or an end URL that we can get to. So this really means that while we're building all of our objects, we know that they're not available in any way to access. And once we're ready to publish, we can go ahead and toggle this on here.
And the this URL here under the web address ends up becoming a full link once it is published.
Yeah, so really we're able to make a site where anyone with an internet connection can actually go and experience using Appian, but we'll see through our build today that it won't feel like Appian. We have a ton of capabilities to make it feel like a true branded site for whoever is building the portal.
Totally. So let's go ahead and start building it then.
So we'll add a page. And adding this page, we're going to start completely from scratch with a brand new interface here. And what that allows me to do once we've configured it with the add page is actually use that branding preview, which we'll continue to configure after this.
Yeah. And so adding a page, this is actually really exciting. And this is one of the features we want to highlight that's new with 23.1. So previously in some of our past releases, in order to configure a portal, you only specified a single piece of content. But now you can specify up to 5 pages in your portal, which really allows you to create these entire microsite of kind of a targeted user experience for external users around related types of things. So this really leads to benefits like improved navigation and things like that. And as Matt's showing, you can also generate the interface that you want to use directly from here. So that keeps it easier and speeds up some of your development.
Yeah, Appian has made it really easy each release to actually create objects and navigate to other objects from the object you're currently using, so you don't always have to go back to the design library and search for whatever you need to get to. So I love all those shortcuts. One of my favorites that came out was being able to create a constant on the fly, just typing the name you want, control clicking, and specifying the constant. So I'm curious if anyone in the chat has their favorite shortcuts they can share to help everyone else out. And we're going to touch on this, but I just want to make sure we're getting to the audience. So, Kevin, someone asked Ravi, hello, Ravi, how do you find errors in integrations? And I know thanks to some of the new features in 23.1, we'll see that we don't necessarily even need integrations anymore, which anyone who has built a portal in past versions knows that that was the way we connected to our data. So stay tuned, Ravi, because we'll touch on how we get data now.
Yeah, no, that's super exciting and great foreshadowing for the rest of this. Going back to this header as well, or going back to our portal design as well, you'll see that the next thing, Matt, it looks like you're configuring is the header. So here you can really set different branding elements and really make it your own, just like April was describing earlier. So by setting a different color, and also updating the logo, you can really brand it to make it feel like it fits more with your customer or whatever you're trying to design. So here you can already see with just the addition of this logo in a second and adding that display name to the header, this really starts to feel like it's part of the city of Metropolis. And what's really cool too, which is also new in 23.2, this addition of the header now shows in the branding preview as well. And you'll see we've made it so that your configurations scroll independently from that branding preview. So as you're making updates, you can see them all live in the portal. And what's really, really cool is that if you have multiple pages on this, you can actually toggle between the different pages and see all of the live updates for all of the pages that you have.
Yeah, I think in general that's like a really great thing about Appian is being able to see what you're doing as you're doing it. And in these new objects we're coming out with, continuing to have what we're used to when building interfaces that lets us know like what we're doing is doing something. And that feedback I think is really great as a developer.
Yeah, no, totally. So at this point, you'll see it just took a couple of clicks for Matt to really set up this portal and all of the branding that we want. So at this point, we can go ahead and add a service account, which will help us to connect to some of the data that we'll be working with, specifically our records. And you'll see this is another little improvement to everyday life, like you were describing earlier, April, with the interface. You can now really create a service account directly from the portal, which this really helps to keep you kind of in your development mode for as long as possible without having to change context. Right, so we'll go ahead and we've created that service account. At this point too, you'll see Matt just highlighted. You're also able to review record type permissions from here as well. So you can see all that the service account has access to really help ensure that you're only exposing the data that you want to be made publicly available.
Yeah, I think we've had so many enhancements to record security coming out and just making it really easy to make sure only the people who should be viewing or acting on data are able to. And, you know, if you want to learn more about records, we have a lot of great content at Academy Online. And the live stream we did last month was me and product manager Peter Lewis going into all things records. So definitely check out that recording and make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our updates helping you out there. Just before we continue, Kevin, we got another question in the chat. What is a service account? So I guess what is that? Why do we need it?
Sure. So a service account is a way to kind of set that security on your data and on the processes within your portal. Since your portal is open to the public now, you need a way to kind of determine who can access your data. And in the rest of the platform, you know, you can set that on your objects themselves and use some of the groups that exist. So this service account is a way for the portal to kind of connect with your data as well.
Great.
It's
Thanks, Kevin.
basically a kind of a generic user that every public user will then act as when they come and interact with our portal.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right, so I think we're already 15 minutes in. These things go so quickly. We're just time flies when you're having fun. But this setup, really, you can see it's only a few things to type out and a few things to click. And I'm sure Matt could have done it in 1 minute if we weren't interrupting him. So let's continue on with our build. What's next?
So what's next is we're going to flip over. So I did hit save changes real quick just to make sure that all of my changes were saved. Portal is still not published. The next step is going to be building out our interface. There's a few examples here in the template section of portal forms and account setup. Just for the sake of time, I don't know if we want to explore those too much, but did want to point out that those are there. You just click on them and that preview will show up there, which basically covers a couple of our common use cases for portals.
Yeah, and these templates in general can really serve as just a great form of inspiration as you're building out for your use case. We kind of tried to target some of the most common use cases you can see here, the portal form and account setup specifically for portals. But yeah, they can really help inspire you with kind of great UX design. And if you're looking for more inspiration as well, I would encourage you to visit design.appian.com. There's some really incredible images there that really show the art of the possible within Appian. So check that out.
Yeah, and I love design.appian.com. Definitely a great place to go. When I first started with Appian, our resource that we had was interface recipes and the docs, which were great. And I learned so much from recreating those. But it also is amazing, along with all of these resources we're creating outside of Appian, we're still actually putting them into the product. So you don't need to navigate out when you're actually building. And that's included in those templates you saw, like right when you're creating an interface, and also this patterns tab from the palette there.
Exactly. And so, Matt, it looks like you've started in design mode, which I think is a really smart move for building out this interface. Design mode can be great for really laying out your interface and kind of getting that structure down for what you want your page to look like. And in this case, like April was saying, it looks like you started with a pattern, which again, yeah, serves as just a great form of inspiration and a great way to kind of lay out your interface and then go in and adjust it with the data that you want to have.
Yep. So our goal here is to be able to display, all of the events. They all have pictures associated with them, and we want to have a nice visual representation. So I pulled this cards as a list item pattern out that will then adapt with our own data and interface that I had already built out. But this is at least a good starting point. The next feature that we're going to check out here is this design library, which is pretty cool. So in here, this is where, previously I'd have to flip to expression mode and then type out rule bang and find my interface that I wanted to recreate. But now I can just do a drag and drop. So for instance, I have some header information that I want to display at the top. And, I could use this at the top of any interface. And this way I don't have to recreate, it's got some rich text and other things that I want to configure. But I don't have to configure that all each time. I can just drag this item in here. And now I have my header instantly configured.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
design library is going to be super powerful and helpful in making sure that we have great experiences across all of our apps. And Matt, if you could flip over to design mode, I just wanted to highlight one thing in case you missed it watching at home, which is, so patterns already does this and it's very, very helpful. So design library, when you're hovering over, you can actually see the preview of what it is. And Kevin, maybe you can speak to this a little bit, how we're really trying to improve overall discoverability because, Appian makes it so easy to build apps. We build so many apps. There's so many objects we're using, and we know, oh, I had something like this already. Maybe I don't remember what it's called. So all these great updates to help us with discoverability. Maybe you could touch on that.
Exactly. Yeah. So the design library is really cool. It's one of, I think, my favorite features coming out in this release. But essentially, yeah, as Matt described, it's a new tab in the interface palette that lets you drag and drop just a select set of saved interfaces into whatever you're designing. And it's really cool because it allows teams to really easily govern interface design and promote best practices and create that consistent user experience in every application. So you've always been able to, easily reuse objects between applications, but the design library is really a game changer because one, it allows you to do that from design mode as well as expression mode. So it gives you more flexibility there and keeps you in design mode for longer. So you can really have that great experience. But also it really helps, yeah, promote that consistency by having these reusable objects in your design library that you're going to keep coming back to. It creates that sense of consistency, which can really elevate your user experience. You don't need to come up with these new designs each time.
Absolutely. Oh,
Aw-
looks like we just got another question in the chat. Can everyone add to the design library? I mean, that's a really good question, right? Because especially when you have a lot of developers working in an environment, it could very easily become a long list that then becomes unhelpful for discoverability, right? So, what's the answer to that, Kevin?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I'm imagining this is coming from somebody who's working in an environment with tons of people and don't want people stepping on everyone's toes. So rest assured, no, not everyone can add to the design library by default. There is a specific group that you need to be a member of, the design library group. So you need to be a member of that group in order to add to the design library. And once you're a member of that group, it's as easy as just selecting a checkbox to add it to your palette. Yeah, include in design library. See, Matt's part of it. He probably wouldn't let me into it though because he wants the control.
I'm not that
Yeah.
much of a control freak, Kevin. It's okay.
Yeah, so it's really just it's one checkbox, you know? It's we
And you
add all
give it a
these new
name.
really
Yeah.
powerful features and it's just an extra click or two. I mean, come on.
Awesome. So Matt, what are you up to next?
So next, I just very quickly messed around with our styling. So I gave, our header a nice color and then a background color. That's one of the nice things about using this header content layout is that you can adjust the background color. So this is a slightly off-white, keeping on with our brand. So it's important to make sure that we're making this feel like that branded website, like we mentioned before.
Yeah, I love that. And some styling tips out there for those watching. Adding a background color to your interfaces and using this flush header content layout like Matt's doing can really elevate your design and really give that modern enterprise grade feel. So nice tip, Matt.
That so next we have some improvements that we need to make inside of our content section for this. So, we've got this columns layout that's showing everything. Well, we need to remove the existing columns layout and replace it with the one that has all of our data in it. So we've already got that staged. And in order to do that, I'm going to just actually delete all of these, which will then hopefully give me an empty space out here. Flip back to my design library, and then inside of our billboard card layout, or sorry, in the design library, I'm going to grab that billboard card layout that we had previously built.
Wow.
Now you'll
And so
notice here that it's immediately asking me, what do you want for these rule inputs? And so that's an important part to understand, like how we're passing data into those sub process or sub interfaces.
yeah. And what's really cool about this too, a couple of things to highlight here is you're also able to load this with your default test values. So if you have kind of common items that you continuously reuse, you're able to default it with those default test values, which I think is a really cool way of kind of loading your whole interface up. What's also interesting, Matt, is with that design library that you had, it looked like the design pattern you were pulling out was very similar to the one that was in the uh, patterns list, which I think is a really cool touch that you had there as well, because that's a really good use of the design library. So you can kind of see you get the inspiration from that patterns tab, but of course, every organization is different and has their own requirements. So, you might want to make some tweaks to the pattern and have, rounded cards instead of the squared ones. And you can really use that design library to make the patterns your own and save them and ensure that you're creating a consistent design across your environment.
Uh, that's right. So I right now I had to switch back to expression mode real quick because I forgot to make some local variables, which I need for defining my interface. So this first one that I'm configuring just very quickly is the local bang registrant, and all I'm going to declare for it is an empty record type registrant. So I type out record type bang, import, and find my registrant, and give it an open close parentheses. So what that will do for me is make sure that that uh, local variable is of the record type import registrant. Now the next one that we're going to configure is this local bang events. This local bang events, in order to define it, we're going to jump into our query editor. So just to make sure my query editor starts off on the right foot, I'm going to use a bang query record type and place my cursor inside of that a bang query record type and hit launch editor. Unable to launch the query because an invalid symbol was found. Sweet. Let's do some commenting out of my other interface that needs to be defined.
That's good. See,
Again,
it's nice. I think that I feel like you planted this here so that we could show people how to troubleshoot. And what Matt's doing here right now is a really effective way to troubleshoot your interfaces if you do run into that. Kind of commenting out different pieces of code. You hopefully get some nice error messages like Matt's seeing that really guide you towards where your issue might be.
Yeah, troubleshooting, it definitely gets easier and easier with a lot of the new features to help developers coming out. And I mean, this is common across all languages, all platforms. We always got to do a little bit of troubleshooting. So, I'm sure everyone tuning in at home has definitely experienced hitting a pink box, but then being able to go ahead and resolve it and continue on with your development.
my query editor is very mad at me right now. Stand by. Saving and testing my data. Let's see what happens again. Nope, it's still that mad. It's just something up with my local variables section. Yep, there it is. All right. So basically it was telling me that my local variables were this abang local variables didn't have a final parameter that wasn't a local variable definition. And it helps if I put my cursor in the right spot for this query record type. There we go.
Matt, you're doing great. I in the last live stream I was trying to build and talk and everything. It's very tough. So I give it up to all the technical instructors out there and everyone building live. It's pretty tough. But a lot of these features make it easier. So query editor, Matt, why don't you go and talk us through what you're doing there?
Yeah, so query editor, we've already got a couple of related records as part of this events record type. So I want to pull that data in so that we can display, the venue and who organized it and everything. The other things that we want to do here, we're just pulling in all available events. Theoretically, might want to put in something that contains all future events. Obviously, we right now just have all future events as these staged events. You'll notice here that I can add the .data at the end of my query already from our query results preview, which is great. And then finally, I'm going to use my sort and limit so that everything is in order, ascending order for date time. And I can hit test query. You can see all of our available events and then hit generate query. And so now in here, we have all of our data.
Just like that? That's amazing.
Just like that.
I feel like that was just a couple of clicks and you're able to get some of the queries. I wish this existed when I was over in yes building.
Yeah. I think one of the great things about query editor, patterns, everything like that, Appian is not no code. It is low code, which makes it so powerful because it makes it faster to do development, but you can still go in and use complex logic, make those changes that you need to. And especially for someone like me or Matt, I'm not sure about you, Kevin, who came from non-computer science backgrounds and we're learning Appian, it makes it so much easier to learn when you can do something like use the query editor, see what it spits out, and have a better understanding of how queries work, how the logic to make these cards clickable and dynamic depending on how many items, things like that, you know?
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I mean, and between the query editor and the new design library, you can really do a lot of this development if you're more comfortable in design mode, and really stick to that. And you'll see that you really can keep all of the design pretty visual, just by selecting a few options. Of course, in Matt's case, he's an expert at the expression mode as well, which is also always an option, for those who are more comfortable there.
So the next part that I wanted to just jump in real quick is that I'm going to be dragging in this event summary because after I select an event, I want to be taken to a screen where that is, there's a few other configurations actually. I have to make sure that my links are working right. But otherwise, this event summary needs to then show up after I click one of these. And so in order to do that, I'm going to drag it here. It's going to ask me for my inputs. But what will potentially happen here, just because we had that local variables scope defined, is that I may not have access to my local variables here. Oh, but I do. So this is great. This one is selected card.
Isn't that great? It gave you exactly what you wanted.
It did.
That's always helpful. Also, another cool thing about this that I don't know if people saw is that you can load your default test values. You can edit the rule inputs right from this screen. Did you touch on that, Kevin? I may have missed it while I was following the chat.
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit, but, yeah, I mean, I think that's just such a cool part of the design library as well. You could imagine, if you have some if you want some flexibility and you want to be able to change some of those interfaces based on rule inputs, but you typically have, a default that you want to use, 90% of the time, being able to load those default test values can just save you a ton of time, and you don't need to kind of reconfigure it each time. So yeah.
All right, so we're looking like we're in pretty good shape. We are just over 30 minutes now, and we're getting pretty close to being able to publish this portal. And again, we're spending a lot of time talking. You could do this in much less time, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, if you're really just focusing on it, not adding all this commentary. But we are coming up towards the end of the stream. So if you do have any questions, make sure you throw them in the chat so we can get to them once we finish up publishing our portal.
So this is the last thing that I wanted to show here real quick, is that on our registrant details, so it's basically this one small corner of our interface, we have this register button. So this register button, since we want to then kick off a process in the save into parameter for the registrant button, or register button, excuse me, we need to use the abang start process function. And by doing so, we call out a constant or just the process model number. But this to show off what was talked about a little bit earlier, this create constant button that April had mentioned is really great. So I can just hit create constant and say, all right, I need a constant that points to my registrant process model, something like that. And then go find the process model type and search for the process model. So import, add registrant. And now I have a constant already created, and it automatically puts it in there for me. So I don't have to go back out to the object list to create that constant, which makes this go way faster.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it seems, oh, it's just a few seconds. A few seconds adds up when this is your job, what you're doing all the time. So it really makes a difference. And Kevin, this ability to do a bang start process right from the portal, we didn't have this before, right? This is one of the great new features in 23.1.
It's amazing, right? Like,
Yeah.
I am so happy with it. Yeah, so Like April was saying, this is new to 23.1, and this touches on that question that we got earlier, April, too, about some of the confusion around, how to troubleshoot your integrations. Well, hopefully that problem is actually starting to go away for you now that you can start a process from a portal. So now you can start any process directly from a portal interface using a bank start process, like Matt was showing. And this really allows you to do everything possible with an Appian process model. So you can write and delete records, you can create new users, or you can email people with a notification that they've registered for this event, like in our case, or a combo of them, like writing to the record and then sending an email, like we're doing. So yeah, it's super powerful, and really saves that development time and reduces the need for integrations.
Yeah, so Matt just ran into a little bit of a security error. That new service account he created, you need to make sure you add it to have permission to access these objects that you want to use. But again, this is really a feature of Appian to make sure we're checking the security on every single object, to make sure things are not getting seen or used by people they shouldn't be. And this is, right now we're building a fun little portal just to get us going with learning how to use these features. But in our real life use cases, Appian has a lot of customers from industries that are very scrutinous when it comes to security and everything like that. So, yeah, these are all features, and now we're publishing.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, April, I want to touch on that as well. Like that security and access is super important for us with the portals. And it's also, I think, really important to note that Matt did get an error before publishing. So he's able to start troubleshooting that. And that's not the only kind of addition that we've made. In 23.1, we've also added design guidance into the portal object. So similar to all of your other objects, you can now see design recommendations directly from the portal. So you can kind of review the health of your portal overall and make changes based off it. So super exciting.
Speaking of changes, Kevin, we just got this question in the chat. Once my portal is published and I make future changes, do I have to keep republishing every single time?
No, and that is another great new feature in 23.1. So new in 23.1, we've actually started to auto-publish your portal for you. Only publish portals, so don't worry. If you haven't published it yet, we're not going to just automatically publish it for you. But for any published portals, if you do go back and make a change to any of the precedents on the portal, so any of the interfaces that are called, we will republish that portal for you, which is a huge quality of life improvement and should save a lot of time.
Yep. And you touched on this a little bit earlier, Kevin, but again, this was something the first time I made a portal that tripped me up a little bit was I thought it would publish when I pressed save changes, but it actually makes a lot of sense why it doesn't, right? You don't want something to be out there on the internet before you're ready. So having the separate save changes button that we're used to and the area to actually go and publish the portal is important. So speaking of publishing portals, right? A lot of times we are working with our dev, our test, and our production environment. So how does it work when we are deploying objects between environments if we have a published portal?
Sure. So what's really great about the recent release and making portal an object is that now that it's an object, it's treated just like all of your other objects. So you're able to deploy it between different environments, which is great. And so if you do have a published portal, it will be auto-published on deployment. But if it's unpublished, we will not publish it for you. So you have that security and you have that same ability to really deploy things between environments.
Great. All right, let's see it. Are we here?
We're working on it.
Working on it. There we go. It's our portal. And in case you don't believe us, I am going to go ahead and drop this portals link in the YouTube chat. So give me 1 second. Let me just pull up that link.
It didn't scream at me when I hit submit, so
Great.
that was my one fear, was that I still somehow broke something with my process model
Yep.
when we were getting loaded. So it looks like it worked. You should get an email that confirms your registration for these fake events.
Yeah, so if anyone in the chat at home wants to go and click and check out the portal for themselves and maybe even try to register for an event, you know, you get to interact with something we just built in a little over 30 minutes. And again, without all the talking, I'm sure it could have been 10, 15 minutes. I mean, the live build challenge back at Appian Europe was to build a portal in 30 minutes, but this was back when you had to use web APIs and integrations. So the contestants actually spent about 10 to 15 minutes just setting those up so they could publish the portal. So now I could make the challenge even harder since actually setting up and publishing the portal takes like a minute.
Yeah, it's amazing how much it's turned around in the past couple of releases. Um, I do
Yeah.
also want to make a disclaimer as you're playing around with this portal. These are not real events, so do not try to show up at the. We will not be there.
Some of them sound pretty fun. So I wish some were real events, but yeah, tried to make some fun data for us to look at.
And
And
in case you don't believe me, here's that I took a screenshot of that confirmation email that came out.
amazing.
So
We
it
did
did
it.
come through. We did
Great
it.
job, Matt. All right. So I'm just going to give a last minute or two to see if any more questions come in. Matt, do you want to talk a little bit? I know actually before I reached out and asked you to help out with this build, you actually hadn't used a portal before. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the process of learning and your experience there for anyone who hasn't tried yet.
Well, I mean, I have an engineering background, so I'll do a lot of learn by doing. And honestly, our online tutorials that were put together for this, I got to preview that because obviously I needed to learn how to build a portal with 23.1, not the previous one with all of the integrations and APIs and all that. So I got to see that a little bit ahead of time and then work through those tutorials. And it was honestly, it was just like building any other site.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Kevin, any last things to add before we close up here?
No, just if you haven't built a portal yet, it's super satisfying because you really get to see it and you can share it with all your friends because it is public. So just like we did today. So try out the new capabilities. And if you have any questions, reach out. We are always happy to talk.
Absolutely. Feel free to drop a comment, on this YouTube recording afterwards. We do look at all the comments and give any suggestions for more things you want to see. So, Matt, Kevin, thank you so much for joining me today. You guys are amazing. And join us next month for our next community live stream in April, where we are going to be going over some of the ways plugins and utilities on the app market can really help speed up and enhance your development. So, thanks, everyone, and see you next time.